our first book review. I'm so excited. If you're new here, last month I announced that I'd start doing book reviews and let you choose what I'd be reading. So make sure to stay tuned until the end of this video to help me decide what I should be reading next month. But the book of choice for February was Switched by Sarah Reedy. So really quick as a recap, here is the back cover copy for this story. For Serena Otakai, free-spirited Californian, life is simple. She loves smashing atoms at the Large Hadron Collider. In Geneva, Switzerland, she loves Star Trek, spicy tofu, and her cat. She loves her messy apartment, her chaotic brand of organizing, and staying permanently and happily unattached. Loving a man is not in her future. For Henry Jewell, uptight Brit, life is simple. He loves making analog black holes, drinking piping hot tea, and organizing his pencil tray. He loves his family, red meat, and obsessively cleaning his spotless apartment. Love and marriage are in his future. One perfect night, Serena and Henry meet. Sparks fly, particles collide, the universe comes to a halt, and it was a mistake. They're too different, it won't work, love isn't in their future, until an electric storm causes an unexpected event at the particle collider, and suddenly they've switched. Serena is in Henry's body, and Henry is in Serena's body. And both life and love are suddenly very, very complicated. It sounds adorable, right? And it was. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. Eventually. Even as a lover of rom-coms, I struggled to get into this book at first. I'll admit, I am not a science person, a nerd to the core, but anything truly science-based, completely over my head. So that was certainly part of my issue and might be unique to me. To really get the feel of Serena and Henry's love for science, there was a lot of focus on it in the beginning. Lots of drawings, relating things to scientific theories, and science jokes. It felt too much to me. That and the humor felt like they were trying to be funny and sciencey. So it didn't come off as a natural feel of the character to me. That combined with the voice that speaks directly to the reader with a lot of asides, I had a really hard time getting into Serena's shoes at first, really diving into the story. Not to mention the conflict of the story is predicated on the fact that Serena does not do love, and Henry does. But we don't really see too much of why in the beginning, so much as just get to see Serena panic and scramble at the fact that she does indeed feel love or something very, very strong for Henry even after just their one night. So I found it kind of hard to relate to, but once you get to the crux of the novel, the switch, I had a ton of fun. What a wild ride. There were so many great moments and one-liners with Serena and Henry slowly exploring their situation, trying to figure out how to fix it while in the midst of multiple family issues. Now, if you're going to read the story and you don't want spoilers, you're gonna want to stop here and come back once you have so that we can compare notes. The author did a fabulous job of keying in on what I feel like any couple would have issues with when suddenly faced with not only being in a different body, but facing someone else in theirs, including but not limited to dressing differently, talking differently, how you wouldn't know how to act. There are so many phenomenal moments as they figure out their way through. There's the manly backslap where Serena tries to fit in by doing the bro backslap thing that just ended so badly. Serena trying to pretend to act like the very proper and British Henry, because he's British and she's American. Henry experiencing a period for the first time. I about died. It was so good. And there's just other lines like no fiddling, fondling, or exploring, because you are now faced with not only a different life, but different parts. Serena's inability to control Henry's body because she has no idea how, and that takes time and practice, or so I'm given to understand. There's also a great part where a past girlfriend of Henry's shows her true colors by glaring at Serena, who's actually Henry, showing the ex-girlfriend's true colors. It felt like just poetic justice, given how many times there's a scene like that in romance novels where the hero takes forever to realize the true colors of the ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend or whatever it is when she was trying to glare at the, new love interest and was actually glaring at the person she was trying to win over, it was amazing. I could go on and on. One of the interesting things I didn't expect was the argument that came up of body versus spirit. Serena hates tea and all she wants is tea when she's Henry. She's a vegetarian craving meat. Henry, as Serena, taps his fingers subconsciously, which is Serena's tick, so it stayed even as Henry was Serena. It's sort of complicated to say out loud. As we get further into the story, even memories stay behind. They start to slowly recall past times, which of course helps them grow closer and understand each other better. It's beautiful. For how much of the beginning and the premise was based on science, though, I was surprised at how much the author brought in more of a mystical belief. Serena turns to a psychic for answers in her time of need, which seemed a bit out of place, even on a recommendation from a friend, and the fact that the end switch had nothing to do with science, or at least not wholly with science, so much as with acceptance and love, it didn't quite make sense to me. I love the idea of that contrast, but it felt more like an afterthought. Like the beginning and end were science, but the middle was more about spirit than an explored theme overall. But overall, I loved this book. I had a ton of fun reading it. I would certainly check out other books of hers to see what her style is versus what's unique to this book and these characters. Not to mention her other books have great premises just like this one. But you'll have to indulge my editor brain for a moment. If I had the chance, I would love to ask the author to consider a couple of things. Number one, making the story fully dual point of view. Not only because it would mean double the hilarious scenes as we get to see the adjustment, not only from Serena's side, but also from Henry's. I think that would just be so awesome. But also because while we see Serena grow to realize that love doesn't have to take over your life, that she doesn't have to live her mom's dream, we could also have growth and more of a character arc for Henry. He, even as a main character, stayed pretty consistent throughout the story, and he was such a great part. I know there was more to be explored with him. Number two, given that we didn't have Henry's point of view, I might have asked to see some of Henry and Serena at work together in the middle, figuring things out and dealing with life there. Seeing Serena with Henry's family and dealing with the wedding shenanigans, hilarious, and a great way for her to see what a wonderful guy he was. But so much of her concern about love was that it would get in the way of her work. It would take over. So I think it would have been cool to explore that side of things while getting to know Henry, while of course still keeping the ex-girlfriend drama, because it was amazing. Seriously, if you only read this book for that one scene, do it. And finally, I would have seen if the author would consider moving the beginning up and showing us a bit more of Serena's norm before she meets Henry. I feel like the biggest reason why I had a hard time getting into the story, other than the science bit, was because I didn't really relate to why she freaked out so much about her instant connection with Henry. She didn't even really give it a chance, but had we seen a bit more of her life, gotten to maybe see her mom and dad's relationship like we do later in the story, I think it would have been more understandable and set us up for a greater connection with the main character and be able to see more of her arc as she grows past that concern. But even with all of that, I'd still tell you to check out this book. The premise was fun, the story was hilarious, and it was a heartwarming read for a cold winter's day. Now on to the big question, what should I be reading for next month? This review has already gone on way longer than I expected it to be, which I'm guessing is probably going to be relatively normal. I could talk about books for hours, so instead of going through the options with you, I've listed them here and linked them below. Check them out below and let me know in the comments what I should read and review for next month. And feel free to put multiple. If I have time, I will try to do more than one. I can't wait. And until next time, keep reading.